What made Khabib Nurmagomedov so great? Oh my god. Let's talk about this. I've been waiting for my chance to pounce on a Khabib Nurmagomedov glaze for years. And we could talk about this in full detail on here. So if you enjoyed the content, please do like, subscribe, all that good stuff. All the stuff I'm supposed to say as an influencer, apparently. I don't know. Go follow the TikTok if you want to. Khabib Nurmagomedov was amazing, right? And when I say this to Khabib Nurmagomedov fans, like, the amount of people that come into my comments sometimes and just blatantly accuse me of, like, hating Dagestanis. And I know why you do it, and you know why you do it. You know, it's because of the colour of my skin. It's because I'm white and British, oh, woe is me. But it's true, you know, it is actually for that reason. But no, I like the Dagestanis. What made Khabib Nurmagomedov so great? He's a very contentious fighter, isn't he? Khabib Nurmagomedov, when you think about it. Throughout history, well, since he's retired, throughout history. In the years since he's retired, it's been like 5 years. Say throughout history, like, I've lived a long life. But since he's retired, he's become a very, very contentious figure in the MMA community. You've got fans debating on how great he actually is constantly. For me, one way to tell if a fighter is a great fighter is if other great fighters constantly acknowledge and put them in the same bracket as them. So when you have GSP, John Jones, you have Demetrius Johnson, you have all these guys consistently saying, Kamaru Usman even, that Khabib Nurmagomedov is in their bracket, you've kind of got to listen to that. And I'm not saying that MMA fighters don't have bad takes. I mean, look at Chael Sonnen. Chael Sonnen is undefeated, undisputed GOAT of MMA. But even in the punditry world, you know, unless he's playing 4D chess, he can have very, very bad takes, in my opinion. But I do think Khabib Nurmagomedov is in that bracket. And I think, you know, listening to other MMA fighters sort of talk about him that are also in that bracket is insight on how good he actually was. Now, for me, one thing that can't be denied when I talk about Khabib straight off the bat is longevity. Longevity is not there for him. Now, you could say his longevity is being undefeated, but his earlier opponents in his career were very much cherry-picked layups. They were. They just were. They had very bad records, a lot of them, and they were nowhere near his level, and that showed. Now, one thing I will say that always impressed me about Khabib is he made Dustin Poirier look about the same level as those guys he beat earlier on in his career. He made Dustin Poirier look journeyman level, in my opinion, in that fight. He made Dustin Poirier look really, really, really average compared to him. And Dustin Poirier is not average. He's beaten some of the best of the best. He's competed for world titles. He's an elite level fighter. And the murderous roar this guy went on of Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje was insane. He does have 7 very, very good wins in his career. Maybe 8 if you include Gleison Tibau. And that was a bit of a controversial fight. The only blemish on Khabib Nurmagomedov's record is Gleison Tibau, I would say. That fight was very, very close. But when I look at that fight, even if Khabib lost, Gleison Tibau was juiced to the gills. He was juiced to the gills. If you look at him versus Gleison Tibau, and you just see some of them scrambles, Gleison Tibau looks 50 pounds heavier than Khabib on the night. And he was juiced up. I know people have talked about the Dagestanis and, you know, testing over there. It's a bit of a grey area, but come on. I'm much more inclined to believe Khabib's natural than Gleison Tibau, because that was insane. How he looked on that night against Khabib was insane. So I don't really see it as this blemish that everybody makes out. I think he had a very, very good record. I mean, the fact that he got to 29-0 and didn't get the 30 sort of, like, triggers me a little bit sometimes. It makes me cringe. 29-0, such a weird number. Just get the 30. But, of course, he retired for understandable reasons. His father passed away. The lightweight weight cut was getting very, very bad for him. I mean, it was a very, very chaotic year during COVID, during the pandemic. And look, he had to retire. Promised his mother he'd never fight again, and he hasn't since. So that's not his fault. Longevity-wise, it's not his fault. I do believe had he stayed at lightweight, maybe the weight cut would have got too much. I definitely think Khabib was on his way to missing weight soon. That Gaethje weight cut looked like hell. I mean, he was going through so much in the build-up to that fight, which is what makes that fight even better for me. But longevity-wise, it is something, for one reason or another, understandable reason or not, it is something that is a valid reason to maybe not put him above GSP, Kamaru Usman, Alexander Volkanovski, Islam Makhachev, who else? John Jones. Did I say Demetrius Johnson? You know, Anderson Silva, all these guys. could be over him in the GOAT debate because of their longevity. And longevity for me means more than anything. Actually, no, competition means more than anything, but longevity is a very, very important thing when you're racking up against a John Jones. When you're Khabib racking up against a John Jones and you have nowhere near the amount of championship wins. I know Khabib never had the blemish of PD test failures on his resume, but just when you look at it face value, that alone is very, very damaging to Khabib's legacy at all time, in my opinion. But I would still have him up there as a legend and an all-time great. He's still in that bracket for me. When I don't put Khabib below these guys, it's not through hate, or it's not through not liking the guy. I love the guy in his prime, but the longevity does hurt him. For me, that's an objective fact. But what made this guy so great to watch, and what will put this guy down as an all-time great and makes it so memorable, is the way that each sort of fight that came by, if you look at Edson Barboza, it was like Edson Barboza's too flashy and too powerful for Khabib. He's got too much for him on the feet, and Khabib smashed him. Michael Johnson, one-punch knockout power, consistently puts in world-level performances when he goes in there against a world-level guy. You know, if you're a guy that's elite, Michael Johnson will step his game up against you. I know, don't let the record fool you. Prime Michael Johnson, when it's time to get in there with an elite level fighter, will step his game up. And he did in that fight. Gave Khabib a bit of trouble in the early parts of the first round, but then Khabib smashed him. And then, you know, you move on to Rafael dos Anjos. I mean, that was earlier in his career. That was a prime RDA. That win aged so well for Khabib. And RDA, you know, he was a bit juiced up in that fight too. Khabib smashed him. Smashed him. One of the more well-rounded fighters of Khabib's career. Oh, RDA's too well-rounded. He's got good jiu-jitsu, good grappling, good striking. He'll be able to stop Khabib's takedowns. He didn't. He got smashed. Edson Barboza gets smashed. Michael Johnson gets smashed. Then, actually, you look at his fight with Al Iaquinta. Al Iaquinta was not on Khabib's level, but he was able to keep it on the feet. And then we had to see a bit more from Khabib on the feet. We had to see more striking out of him. But if you look at that Al Iaquinta fight, one thing I think maybe like a Joe Rogan does, and this is no hate to Joe Rogan, is make that fight seem closer than it was. Khabib washed him on the feet. He did. Al Iaquinta was so concerned about stopping the takedown that Khabib butchered him on the feet with his jab and 1-2s. So then he gets in there with Conor McGregor. Now, Conor McGregor's one of the only fighters that I've seen not really change up his style to swing to the fences to get Khabib off of him. He's one of the only fighters that I ever saw fight Khabib that didn't just crumble under the pressure of Khabib. But that takedown threat again, in the second round, you look at the way Khabib dips, Conor McGregor lowers his guard completely, he's anticipating a takedown, he's anticipating taking his hips away, bang, gets cracked with an overhand right and gets dropped. That was an insane moment. That fight was insane. The build-up to that fight, there will never be another build-up to a fight like that again. That's 100% never going to be topped, in my opinion. Maybe it will, but not for a long, long time. Not for a long, long time. It's the biggest fight ever for a reason. And Khabib smashed Conor. First round, dominated him. Second round, dominated him. Third round, Conor started to get into it a little bit. He looked super fatigued. But he managed to start getting into it a little bit. And then the fourth round, Khabib smashed him again. Submitted him. And, you know, that was insane what he did to Conor McGregor. Because Conor McGregor at that point was a generational talent. An absolute global superstar. Absolute global superstar. The biggest pioneer in the sport's history. Khabib smashed him. So then he gets in there with Dustin Poirier. Now, what people don't realise about the next two wins I'm going to say is they were both coming off career best performances. Dustin Poirier had a very good war with Max Holloway. Now, it was a war, but Poirier was very much ahead in the fight. Arguably won the majority of the rounds and battered Max Holloway. Battered him. Outboxed Max Holloway. Poirier was written off in that fight. Absolutely smashed him in that rematch. So Poirier gets the interim championship after beating a current world champion. I know in a different division, but still, one of the most legitimate interim champions I've ever seen, really, because he beat a champion to get it. I know it wasn't at featherweight, but still, I think that's a legitimate interim champion to me. So he goes in there against Khabib. And the narratives in these fights were what people forget. People now look at Dustin Poirier and they're like, whoa, Dustin Poirier is a striker. But at the time, people were saying like the weasel, Dustin Poirier's combination punching, his chin, his ability to make it scrappy and dirty, He can take the front foot off Khabib. He's got good boxing, good head movement, very good in the clinch. He's got very good jiu-jitsu. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. That's what people were saying going into this fight. And a lot of people wrote off Khabib. Oh, Khabib won't be able to handle. He won't be able to handle the combination punching of Dustin. Smashed him. Smashed him. I mean, there was that moment where he got, like, he didn't even get wobbled by that overhand left, in my opinion, or shifting into the overhand right. I don't think he got rocked by that. I think he just had to regain his balance a little bit. Dustin, so uncharacteristically, was swinging for the fences to get Khabib off of him, to get Khabib to break his forward pressure, and he would not let up on him. Kept following him around the octagon. And another thing about Khabib is, it was the fact that he would follow guys. He wouldn't cut you off. He'd just follow you around. And you know, against better strikers, he's able to nearly dodge all of their shots. If you go look back at Khabib's fights, he very rarely got hit on the feet. He actually had really, really good head movement. But these guys were so worried about his takedown, so worried about when he's going to shoot, they became so much worse on the feet. So much worse. Dustin Poirier looked terrible on the feet against Khabib. Khabib made this guy look like he wasn't on his level. And then you go look at the Justin Gaethje fight. For me, this is a win that people have twisted over time to disrespect Khabib. Again, they'll be like, oh, Justin Gaethje's a striker, he had no grappling. We don't forget over on the Benjamin MMA page. We do not forget. We know the narrative that was going into that fight. Justin Gaethje is a Division 1 freestyle All-American wrestler. Justin Gaethje wrestled at a very, very high level. He is a very, very, very good wrestler. He was touted as the guy that's going to stop the takedowns. He's going to brutalise Khabib's lead leg. He's got too much power for him on the feet. That was the narrative going into that fight. Khabib Nurmagomedov's dad had just died from COVID months before. Khabib had a really, really bad weight cut. I mean, everything you could think of leading into that fight, every narrative was pointing to a Justin Gaethje win. And Khabib smashed him. Smashed him. I mean, it was rocky. It was one of his more rockier performances in the first round. Gaethje was landing good calf kicks. Gaethje was keeping a low stance at the start. You know, he's ready for when Khabib shoots. He's low. He can get away quicker and take his hips away. Gaethje showed a good chin in the fight. They were exchanging. Gaethje looked good in that fight. And he was coming off his best career performance against Tony Ferguson, someone that people also wrote Khabib off against. I think over time, even though it's a shame we never got to see that fight, we all kind of look at it and go, Khabib would have probably beat Tony. But still, we never did get the answers to that fight. But still, Gaethje smashed him. And now he's going into a fight with Khabib and everything's going wrong for Khabib. And Khabib, as soon as he got Gaethje on his back, that was it. That was it. I mean, the first round, in the end of the first round, Khabib had a submission locked in. It might have been an inverted triangle, I can't remember. And then the round ends, saves Gaethje. Second round, Gaethje looked terrified of Khabib. But then Khabib got him on his back again in the second, and that was it. That was it. And then he retired, never to be seen again. Never got cut, never got bruised. Never really had a close fight, except maybe Gleison Tibau, who was, again, juiced to the gills. Insane. He made Justin Gaethje, he made Conor McGregor at that time. Whatever you want to say about Conor McGregor drinking and stuff, he made Conor McGregor at that time. Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje coming off their two best career wins, look like nothing on the ground. Look like nothing. And for me, you know, when I talk about all-timers and people mention, like, boxing fans will mention the fear of Mike Tyson. When Mike Tyson was getting ready to go into a boxing ring, it's the fear of him that would get guys. But it was the fear of that takedown. It was the narrative in all of his fights, the takedown. Can they stop the takedown? Can they stop the takedown? If they stop one, can they stop two? And man, they all fought like they were terrified of it. They all fought like they were terrified of it. The intimidation, Khabib wasn't a nasty guy. He wasn't an outspoken guy. He didn't say egregious things like Mike Tyson. He didn't get in brawls outside the octagon, really. But he was an absolute intimidating force inside that octagon. For me, the performances, for me, the fear factor, for me, the domination is what makes Khabib great. It's what sort of catches ground. It doesn't quite overtake them, but it's what can make up grounds against champions that had the longevity, that had the runs. But what Khabib did in that short space of time was nothing short of phenomenal. Now, I'm going to get called a glazer for this. Listen, I'll happily glaze the guy. His era was fucking, it was a thing, it was a thing of beauty to watch. It was insane. You know, I'd sit there after Khabib. Khabib's one of the only MMA fighters that has really ever made me sit there and go, wow. Wow. After he beat Conor McGregor, it was, wow, I can't believe he did that. After he beat Dustin Poirier, it was, wow. After he beat Justin Gaethje, it was, wow. Wow. Every single time. Honestly, what a fighter. People really don't give this guy his flowers, I think. They don't give this guy enough flowers. But that's my opinion. Thank you all very much for watching.